fellow cinephisies, my name is Christina and welcome to another Let's Get Reelz movie review. Today's movie I will be reviewing for you is To Be or Not to Be. No, this is not a classic movie Thursday. I have already reviewed To Be or Not to Be from 1940. This is Mel Brooks' version of To Be or Not to Be from 1983, and it stars Mel Brooks and his wonderful, fabulous, talented wife, Anne Bancroft. Now, it's the same situation, same storyline as the original To Be or Not to Be. The Nazis invade Poland, and there is this theater group run by Frederick Bronsky, who is played by Mel Brooks, and his wife Anna Bronsky, played by Anne Bancroft. The actors really aren't that great. Frederick is just, he's got a big ego, he's got a big head, he just thinks he's the greatest actor in the world, and Anna just lets him go off and do whatever the hell he wants. And during Hamlet's soliloquy that Frederick plays, he says, "To be or not to be," and then a young soldier gets up and goes off to the dressing room of Anna. The young soldier that gets up is Lieutenant Andrei Sobinsky. He's played by Tim Matheson, and he is madly in love with Anna, and he professes his love for her and wants to tell Frederick that, you know, they want to run away together. Pretty much the same plot of the original To Be or Not to Be, with a few little differences thrown in there. And of course it's got the Mel Brooks touch. It's crazier and sillier than the original To Be or Not to Be, but I don't want to compare the two because they are very, very different. There are a lot of similarities between the old and the new one, but I'm not really going to go into them too much because this is Mel Brooks' version. Mel Brooks has a crazy sick sense of humor, and the 1940 version was very held back. You know, it was its time, it was refined. This is just out and out crazy ridiculous, this 1983 version. I love both versions. I love Mel Brooks so much. I mean, who doesn't? He was great, he was a genius. He knew just what to do to make, you know, the perfect silly, not over the top silly, just perfect silly. And I think he takes from a great comedic genius. He took from Ernst Lubitsch and the writers of the original To Be or Not to Be, and just took off where, you know, they really couldn't at the time in the 1940s. And then you have Anne Bancroft playing Anna Bronsky, and Anne Bancroft is like one of the greatest actresses ever. That's my opinion, but I feel she is one of the greatest actresses to have ever graced the movies, graced stage. I adore her, and it's funny to watch her and Mel Brooks because they were married, if you did not know that. They were husband and wife, and their son Max Brooks also makes like a little cameo in this. I love their chemistry. It's just so funny to watch. They're like, they seem so mismatched for each other, but they really weren't. They just work so well together, and you know, their acting styles were completely opposite. She was very, very serious, and he was very, very silly. They just worked. They just worked out so well. They brought out so much of each other in this movie. Tim Matheson, I like him. I like the movies I've seen him in, or they haven't really been much. He was really good with Anne Bancroft, but I don't know if that's because Anne Bancroft was such a good actress that she could probably like act with a friggin' broom and be amazing, or if it was just Tim Matheson being, you know, acting really, really well. I just think the whole cast was brilliant. You have a lot of character actors that you've seen in other Mel Brooks movies or other movies in the 80s. Colonel Sanders from Spaceballs is in this. He's part of the theater troupe, and there's a lot of other really big actors in this movie, and every one of them is fantastic. Every one of them, even if they're serious actors or comedic actors, really, really do an excellent job with all the comedic parts, and it's wonderful. It's a wonderful comedy. There are lines that are taken exactly from the original To Be or Not to Be, which I think is a great tribute. I'm going to say tribute. They're not stealing from the original. Again, this is a remake of some sorts. The names are all changed up from the original, but I like that they kept a lot of the dialogue from the original. Like, there's a few few scenes where Frederick is acting out the part of a Nazi, and his name is Erhard, and he's known as Concentration Camp Erhard, and that is exactly from the original To Be or Not to Be. And there's a couple of other lines here and there. I'm not really going to give it away. If you've never seen the 1983 version, but you have seen the 1940 version, go watch Mel Brooks's version and, you know, have the original in mind if you know it well. You'll hear all the lines come and just be like, oh, that's from the original, it's so good. If you really like Mel Brooks, or if you're just really, really into comedies, if you know the original To Be or Not to Be, go watch this version of To Be or Not to Be. I remember watching it for the first time and laughing, and then I watched it again for the first time in a very, very long time, not that long ago, and I was laughing so hard. Harder than I probably did the first time, because I appreciate Mel Brooks' humor a lot more than I did when I first watched this. If you enjoy comedy in any way, you're gonna love To Be or Not to Be, and especially if you are a giant Mel Brooks fan. But if you are a giant Mel Brooks fan, I'm sure you've seen this already. So if you have seen Mel Brooks' To Be or Not to Be, now go and watch the original from 1940 with Carol Lombard, Jack Benny, and directed by Ernst Lubitsch. So that was my review of the 1983 version of To Be or Not to Be, starring Mel Brooks and Anne Bancroft. If you liked this review / rambling in any way, please give it a thumbs up. Leave your comments down below. If you have seen this To Be or Not to Be, or you want to leave me anything about Mel Brooks, let me know what your favorite Mel Brooks movie is, favorite Anne Bancroft movie, anything you want to talk about this movie or the two actors or any of the actors in the movie, let me know there. Also in the comments, if you have any suggestions of what I should watch next, leave those there, and if I pick your movie and I review it, I will give you a shout out. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button for future Let's Get Reelz movie reviews, because that is what I like to do here. And as always, keep watching movies and stay